Welcome viewers to another episode from our platform. Today I have with me a very special guest, Air Vice Marshal SN Murti, who is an aviation MRO expert. I'm going to be talking to him about the civil MRO and how it can be considered a national asset. So this will happen in a series of episodes. This is the first one, where we are looking at the essentially the state of aircraft MRO in India. So you can find out more about Air Vice Marshal SN Murti by going to his LinkedIn profile, the link to which is there in the show notes below. So Air Marshal Murti, the first question to you is, can you give us a little bit of an insight into the evolution of India's aircraft MRO industry? Air Marshal Murti, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really privileged that I've been asked to give my opinion about the civil MRO and how it can be considered as a national asset at this forum. And I'm thankful to the General Justice Singh. And to start with, I would like to say that the aviation itself is an industry which, if you really see, has seen a very, very steep rise in the development. In 1903 December, the Wright brothers' first flight, to calling it as a commercial aviation, or the first flight of commercial aviation that took place, was in 1908. So you can say in 5 years, the growth has been to that extent. And in 1911, the number of aircraft in the sky were increasing, and there was a need felt for having the regulations for flying the aircraft. So the growth potential in this was very early realized by the world. In 1911, after the regulations started forming, the FAA, the Federal Air Authority, also came into picture in a different stages. Initially, it was formed under the Ministry of Commercial Aviation, Commerce, and then subsequently it was merged and became the Federal Air Authority, which actually guides the entire airworthiness of the aircraft. The safety aspects started coming in, and if we see in India, the entire aviation, the aviation kept pace with the world. In fact, truly speaking, if we see 1911, the first flight was taken from Naini to Allahabad, and say in 1932, the Tata Airlines was formed. Whereas in the US, the airlines were formed around 1920. So we were never lagging behind in any of these aspects. But what exactly was lagging is the development of the MROs along the side, which has not taken place till 1947, when the first 1BRD was set up. And in the civil in 1953, when the Indamar was set up by one American under the name of Airframe. The company name was Airframe, which was set up in 1953 by one Mr. Kozarek, and then it later on became Indamar, that is India and America. That was the acronym taken from both of them. And the Airworks also came. They were the third party MROs. Similarly, the regulation started developing, and see the DGCA formally came into being in 1977. It became DGCA, where the entire gambit of safety and everything came in the DGCA, which signed at that time the MOUs with ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organizations, and also with the International Aviation Aircraft Transport Associations and other organizations. So, though DGCA started in 1934 till 1977, the potential of the requirement to have the full gambit of the safety and the things were not realized. The MROs also grew, but the initial MROs were very the airline oriented. Like in 1932, when Tata started their airlines, till 1938, they did not have their own engineering division. They started in 1938, and then, of course, in 1950s, 53 or so, when the nationalization of the airlines took place, the civil aviation ministry then formed the AIEVSL, and their maintenance thing came up very late, and they were concentrated only with the airlines. So the third party MROs were only Airworks and Indamar, which kept pace with some amount of development in the field of independent MROs, and they grew to certain levels, but their growth was limited because of a lot of regulatory issues.
Thank you very much for that. So that brings me to the next question. That is that today, if you look at the Indian MRO and the global MRO industry, how do you compare the two?
Yeah, see, that's why because if you really see, the aviation industry grew very fast along. I mean, the Indian aviation, if you really see today, by 1930s or so, it will be the third largest aviation industry is going to be in the globe. Whereas the maintenance has not kept pace with it. MROs have not kept pace with it. If you see, sometime, I mean, in 2021, there had been a survey by McKinsey and then, the Deloitte and these people, because Government of India realized that we need to have the good MRO base to have in the country, so that, it keeps up pace with our civil aviation. At that time, you see, like in 21 or today, even now, the business is around, say, 77 or 78 billion MRO business in the globe, and the Indian MRO's contribution to it is, the share is only 2.2 billion. Though we are improving from the fact that in 21 the share was from 67 billion in the globe to in the world to when we had only 1.7 billion. So though there is a growth, and by 2031, if you see that it is likely to grow up to 120 billion market or 132 billion market, whereas the Indian share is going to be around 4 billion only. So that's a very very small share that we are having, whereas the entire aviation business, the number of aircraft that India is going to have, which is going to be more than almost close to 2,000 aircraft in the civil aviation itself. And compared to other, and when you add up other cargo and the non-scheduled operators and all, the amount is going to come to around 3,000 aircraft, which almost, and the passenger load wise will be the third, the largest aviation, and to be the number 3 and having a share of just $4 billion US is, I think, is a very, very, I mean, it shows the low and speed of growth. So that is where we stand today.
Thank you for that. You have mentioned about the growth, but if from what you have already spoken and overall your expertise in this area, what do you think is the possibilities as far as the projected growth we can look at, let's say, in the next couple of decades?
The projected growth is also not very promising to start with, because the projected growth, with the Government of India now giving a lot of emphasis on the MRO business, is going to be around 4 to 5 billion US dollars by 2032. So that is where is the probably more emphasis required by the government. And the growth is also getting restricted mainly because the airlines are making their own MROs to support their own airlines. Whereas the growth in the MRO industry can come up only when you have more third-party MROs. And when it comes to third-party MROs, if you really go onto the DGCA site, you will find there will be some 145 or 140, close to 150, the civil aviation regulation under CAR 145 approved aircraft maintenance, the organizations you will find in the website. Whereas most of them are either battery charging rooms, small, component repair shops and things like that. The actual aircraft maintenance is done by only 2 or 3 3 or 4 companies which are third party, like GMR, NMR, Airworks, or maybe Tata's Taj Group. They are the only few who undertake a slightly heavier maintenance than just doing the aviation. So once you have the third party growth, that is where you can probably pull the business from outside into the Indian continent. And here, if you really compare yourself with our Southeast Asian countries like Singapore or Malaysia, Indonesia, their share is, as of date, is also more than Indian share of business. And Emirates itself, goes on to $6 billion US dollar is their share of business even today, whereas we are lingering around 1.2, 1.3. So that is the.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And my final question for today's episode is this: that in your view, what are the factors which are influencing India's position in the global MRO industry?
See, what we have to see is how what we have done in the past, which has contributed to a very slow growth in the Indian MRO. That is one part, and what we probably need to do in future to improve upon it. So one of the main reasons was, of course, the infrastructure and the capacity of the airport itself. We had airports which had very low infrastructure, maybe need-based hangars which were could accommodate the aircraft of the size what the airlines were operating, or what some of the non-scheduled operators were operating. And we did not have the potential for too much of potential for the growth till 2008 and 10, when the PPP model started coming up, and the growth in the aviation had started. And now with UDAN and other projects and the secondary runways coming up and a lot of hangars coming up, and the multiple runways at the same place have taken place, that initial growth was restricted because of that. And also the cost of operation was very high, be it GS, the service tax at that time, and now the government has, of course, come up with the GST to be only 5% levied, and the airport authorities leasing land lease costs were very high, and that, and also some of the reasons have been because of the inefficient way of handling the traffic. Also, if you see that the minimum separation between the aircraft was about 290, level 290, supposed to be 1,000, which started in 1997 or something in the world. But by the time the DGC actually forced it and implemented was around 2007 or 2005. So we used our airspace also in an inefficient way. So these were some of the issues, probably the growth in the, because people bringing in the aircraft and getting them serviced and other issues, they got restricted in the country.
Thank you very much for that. And viewers, with that we come to the end of this particular episode. And I thank Air Marshal Murti for being with us today. I am looking forward to recording more episodes on this same overall topic. And we will bring you another episode soon after this one. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.